Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for the first NWSA webinar of 2023. We're excited to start off a new year, and what better topic than to talk about Forest Service history and the role wilderness has played in that Forest Service history, and the role that wilderness plays in the National Museum of Forest Service History. Today we have with us Lisa Tate, who is the Executive Director of the National Museum of Forest Service History, and Dave Stack, who was a previous Executive Director, is now the Historian Archivist for the National Museum, which is located in Missoula, Montana. They have some exciting plans to share with us today. That if you haven't heard, the museum is expanding, and they've been working diligently to expand not only the physical facility, but the materials and the information that's shared there at the National Museum. And so Lisa and Dave are going to tell us what's up about all of that and how that might relate to wilderness stewards and wilderness stewardship groups around the country, the kind of information that's available at the museum, and what the new expansion plans look like. So I'm really looking forward to having this conversation, participating in it. I know it's going to be a great facility. So Lisa and Dave, go ahead and take it away. Do any introductions you want to do. With me is Dave Cantrell, my program chair, and he and I will be monitoring things in the background. But go ahead, Lisa and Dave.
Well, thanks, Randy. You guys have a copy of our bios, but I wanted to just quickly introduce myself. Lisa Tate, as you mentioned, I'm the Executive Director for the museum, and I've been with the organization going on 7 years now. But Dave can introduce himself, and he's been here for a long time. He's really been a very strong supporter and advocate.
Lisa, you somehow got muted there.
I think it was the blanket muting of everyone when they first joined. But again, I'm Lisa Tate, and I'm the Executive Director for the museum. I've been with the organization for about 7 years, but I have a strong background in conservation-related museums. And we do have a very exciting project that we're going to share with you today. And Dave Stack has been with the museum for over 20 years. But I'll let Dave speak to you of his history.
Well, I'm a Forest Service retiree, retired as district ranger here in Missoula in 1999. It just seems a short time ago, but it's actually a long time ago. And I guess I've flunked retirement since then. I've been basically a full-time volunteer at the museum since that. My experience in the Forest Service is I spent about half my career in Region 9 on several forests, including as a ranger on the Monongahela, and then I finished up my career here as in Region 1. So I've been on districts in West Virginia and in Montana here, responsible for management of wilderness. So it's a great resource, and it's a great story to tell of Forest Service accomplishment. So our presentation will kind of lay out how we plan to do that. So Lisa's going to pick back up with this dialogue here.
Okay, well, I'm going to share my screen. We just have a very short PowerPoint to share with you today. And then we have a really great short video of our project. So can everyone see my screen? Yep.
Yes, it's coming.
Okay. All right.
Just take it to presentation mode.
Okay. So, our organization, if you're unfamiliar with us, is a nonprofit organization. Sometimes people think that we're the Forest Service because of our name. And while we do have a very close partnership with the agency, we are not the agency. We're not a division under the agency. We're not funded by the agency. We're a completely nonprofit organization that was founded in 1988 in part by a state forester who was also a historian that felt that the agency needed to do more to preserve the history and specifically artifacts. So originally our organization started by collecting a number of artifacts. That collection has now grown to over 50,000 items. And we do so much more now. We have a large board of directors that's nationally dispersed because we are a national organization. And although our offices and repository are here in Missoula, we do work all over the United States. We have exhibits that are both traveling, virtual exhibits. We do great educational programming. We host national teacher workshops in support with the Library of Congress, where we bring teachers to Montana and we work on a specific topic, and then we share all of those lesson plans freely on our website. We also host a number of events at our existing campus. Here you can see the School of Field Days, gives you kind of a glimpse of what you're about to see coming up. The current development on our 31-acre campus, which is 1 mile north of the Missoula International Airport on Highway 10 West, includes quite a bit of infrastructure that has been brought into the campus in preparation for building the National Conservation Legacy Center. But we've been open since 2017 to the public, where we have a visitor center, we have a beautiful timber frame stage and amphitheater, and we have a wonderful forest discovery trail with outdoor participatory exhibits, including an L4 lookout replica.
I might point out that the visitor center was it was a ranger's residence on the Bungalow Ranger District on the Clearwater, and it was brought over here in 2000. It was dismantled and erected on site. So eventually, we want to use this as an exhibit to talk about the life of a ranger's family on a remote ranger district.
Yes, thanks, Dave. I'm going to let Dave talk about our collection, because this is Dave's primary work here at the museum, is managing this collection.
As Lisa said, we've got over 50,000 records in our collection. That includes both published materials like handbooks, reports, many photos, films, many maps, and any archival records and objects. And so about slightly over 40,000 of the records are accessible online, and there is ability to search, ability to see the photographs of the objects or the scan of the photo. So it's well used, and we get a lot of requests for more detailed information. Lisa?
Yeah, as Dave mentioned, you know, our collection is vast. We have the archival documents, we have photographs, memorabilia, all kinds of one-of-a-kind, very unique items that, if it weren't for our organization, may have ended up in a landfill or who knows where.
I thought I would put out several examples of some of the archival records we have, and specifically examples of Bob Marshall. Bob Marshall, when he spent his time in the Arctic Divide in the winter in Wiseman, Alaska, wrote a series of letters, and he sent them to his sister back in New York State. She distributed those to his mailing list. And we received about 96 pages in total of these letters. And the letters we received were sent to Harry Gisborne, who was one of the pioneer fire researchers here in Missoula. Next. Another is an example of a handwritten 4-page letter that Bob Marshall wrote to the regional forester here in Missoula, basically opposing the idea of hunter access by aircraft into what's now today the Bob Marshall Wilderness Area. Okay. And the third example I have is a little bit of humor that Bob Marshall, in several instances, wrote sort of tongue in cheek about some different items that he was interested in. Here's one about the life of a Northwestern lumberjack that was published in 1929. Okay. And I guess I misspoke this is the last one. Bob Marshall wrote a pro to Raphael Zahn in 1935 when I believe, if I remember right, Zahn was retiring. Of course, Raphael was the pioneer that led the development of the Forest Service research program.
Thanks, Dave. And if you guys are interested in looking at these in greater detail, or you want to see more, you can always go to our website and look at them yourself. So here we have an area, our master plan for our campus. Oops, this slide must be on auto forward, but you can see that the Conservation Legacy Center will serve as the anchor to this campus. And we have a number of future amenities planned, but this is our focus for our project right now. This is an architectural rendering. This is our conceptual study. The building is still very much this design. We wanted to really utilize mass timber and other innovative wood products in the design of our building. We felt it was very important to build sustainably, and we wanted to use modern, leading edge, and again, innovative wood products in our design. We wanted the building to be an exhibit in and of itself. And so we started working with renowned architect Tom Chung, who is a leading specialist in mass timber design and sustainable architecture, specializing in wood construction. So we have been working with Tom for a couple of years. Again, this was just kind of an early rendering of some of the various wood products that we'll be having in the, or some of the products we'll be having in the Conservation Legacy Center, but it has greatly expanded since this conceptual study. We're now past the conceptual study and we just finished the schematic design, so we're getting ready to go into the construction document phase of our project. One of the signature elements of this project are these 16 tree-like support columns that will be supporting the mass timber roof. It creates a tree-like canopy both inside the building and also on the exterior. And each one of these tree-like support columns will be an individual species of tree from wood representing our national forests all across the United States. And each wood has been carefully selected for a very unique story and piece of history that it can tell. In addition to the work that we've been doing to design the physical building, we have also been working with another renowned firm, Art Processors, who is a leader in cutting-edge museum exhibition designs featuring immersive and participatory exhibits. This is a museum that will engage the visitor, and it will raise many questions for the visitor that they can seek answers to while being really interested as they continue to move through the exhibition. So it actually starts in the lobby where people first enter the building. And again, I have a fly-through video that we're going to show at the end of this PowerPoint that'll give you a quick fly-through.
If we go back a second there, Lisa.
Sure.
I just wanted to mention that canoe that's hanging there is we hope that the canoe that is being restored right now and the finishing touches in the Wisconsin Canoe Heritage Museum. It was purchased by a Forest Service person in 1968 for $76 and used it for many, many, many years. And he donated it last year to the museum. And so we did a small fundraiser so they could be restored. And we want to use that as another way to start talking about the use of canoes and wilderness. And I think that'll be part of the story that can start right in the lobby.
Right. Thanks, Dave. So, while we're going through the exhibition, we have different zones and we look at the topics of each area. And then in the next phase is where we'll be drilling down to those stories that we'll be telling. One of the cool interactive features that we'll have are these video plinths. They're motion activated as you step near them. So as you step up to one of these plinths, a story will start to scroll using text, audio, and video to tell the story. This is just an example of what those images might look like as you scroll through a video plinth. And, the story of conservation in the United States is so unique and it is so big that we really needed to think about how do we structure an exhibit like this? How do we structure an exhibit with a target audience of the general public as well as people that have a really strong knowledge of a specific subject matter that they might want to really investigate? It's a big job to try to figure all of this out. So we've spent the last 2 years with our expert team at Art Processors to create a layout for the exhibition that will engage people as they move throughout the area. As you can see, we have areas like recreation and wilderness that are kind of special standalone areas, but the stories of wilderness, for example, will be spread throughout the entire exhibition. Even though it has its own kind of geographic area within the exhibition hall, those stories will be told in mountains and forests, watersheds and habitats, rings of change, all throughout the exhibit. This is just a quick slide kind of highlighting some of the imagery of what it will look like as you enter the exhibition hall. And then as you're in the exhibition hall, this is a really cool, unique feature, this rings of change. This is actually a timeline. Each one of these rings represents 10 years of history starting in the 1980s. And as you scroll down through the rings, content will pop up to talk about what was going on of significance in that era. So it's a digital touchpad that's motion activated. And we really did a lot of work with art processors thinking about how do we, in addition to when you think about our overall core audience, how do we also engage younger audiences? How do we get kids interested in going through the museum? And we have a variety of strategies, including this one, to do that.
That they tasked us with basically thinking about the different categories. And so right now we have 6 categories on the rings of change that people can search for. And a couple of examples would be like pop culture. This could be maybe Smokey Bear messages. There's another category called planes, trains, and automobiles, and another one called forks in the road. Again, these names might change, but in that we will have basically events like project events, laws passed, so you can have, when the different wilderness regulations were approved and when was the Wilderness Act. So all of those can be popped up under those different categories.
Yes, thanks, Dave. One of the dynamic features along the north wall will be a large screen that will be rotating images of national forests and unique special places throughout our public lands. But it doesn't stop there. It's not just a big panoramic image to grab people's attention. Each one of these stations will be able to have devices that will bring the content right up onto this big screen. So here you see over at the left of the slide, a man with his daughter looking at some viewfinders with a historic water pump there next to them. Just to give you an example, as you pump that water pump, content will spill out onto the floor and then start running up onto the screen so that you can learn about a variety of different topics that will be very engaging. and keep people there. So Dave, I'll let you talk a little bit about the wilderness components.
You know, we realize that, you know, at least many of our museum visitors, you know, they're not going to spend a lot of time reading. So we want to, you know, make sure that the takeaway messages, you know, we keep reinforcing that about the value of wilderness, the role of the Forest Service, and some of the high points of the history of what's been accomplished on that. So we're going to use a lot of interactive, as Lisa said, and we hope that this is going to be very engaging to the visitor. And it's something they'll remember and something they'll want to come back and see. Because we visualize over time that we'll keep adding and changing what we can show as we get more experience and more support. Over time, it's going to be changing.
Yes. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Dave, because that was very important to us to be able to have the opportunity to rotate content. You know, my background is not with the Forest Service. It is a museum and nonprofit background, and I have been in the museum industry for almost 40 years now. And it was very important to me when I came to the organization that we were using industry best practices in the way we share information, because there is a lot of science that goes into creating museum exhibitions, science that includes how people learn, what they retain, how they retain information, and how they leave in a way that makes them wanting more information. And by utilizing a professional exhibition design firm like Art Processors, who is one of the leading firms in the world, literally, we are able to have a world-class museum with a learning experience that will take people well beyond the doors of the museum. This just gives you a little bit of background as to how we're going to engage people specifically in the wilderness area. And this is a floor plan of some of the areas that are some of the tools that we'll be using. But I do want to reiterate that this area, while it will focus specifically on wilderness, the wilderness story will be told throughout the entire exhibition. And of course, you know, in working through this exhibition, we are in a capital campaign to raise funds to fund the exhibition. And this is the anticipated costs that we see for the wilderness work. And where are we? You know, we have made a tremendous amount of progress in the last 12 months to build the Conservation Legacy Center. We are completing the design development and the construction documents for the building this spring, and we plan to go into the construction of this building later this year with an opening in 2024 or 2025. You know, there's a lot of exhibit sponsorship opportunities. We're just sharing this with you because we're hoping that you might be able to help us identify groups, individuals, or companies that may have an interest in being a part of this project. And we don't have like a canned system where we just say, for this much, we'll put your name here, for that. We like to customize because we look at these sponsorship opportunities as partnership opportunities. We are trying to develop long-term relationships, again, with organizations, foundations, companies that have a similar interest. The exhibition and the opening of the Conservation Legacy Center is the start to a huge project that will also include ongoing educational opportunities, workshop opportunities. I mean, we're a museum, but museums are learning centers, and that's what we will be. We will be a platform for discussions, for workshops, for just all kinds of learning opportunities for all ages. But in the meantime, we're also looking for funding to assist us with the wilderness program. Dave, would you like to talk a little bit about our process?
You know, what we're doing now is fundraising for our exhibits. Overall, our goal is to raise $2 million. Of that, a small amount for wilderness area. But what we hope to do today is to get ideas from you on people that perhaps you could introduce us to, that we can then follow up and offer to review and show what our project's going to be, and see if they would be interested in discussing further some type of support. And so that's the bottom line of what we're hopeful for today. Is we want to inform you folks of what we're doing, and then hope that leads to maybe some potential that we can follow up and talk to other people.
Thanks, Dave. I have a quick video that I'm going to share. It's just a few minutes long, and it is of the fly-through of the building. So let me get that brought up here, share my screen.
And when that's done, we can, we open to questions and any brainstorming we want to do. So.
Yeah, and as Dave mentioned, we're not asking anyone in this group to go out and beat the bushes for us. We're just asking you, if you believe that this project has a merit, as we do, that you can help us identify potential funders that can make this happen. We've spent a lot of time fundraising for the exhibition, or for the building, and now we are doing the fundraising for the exhibitions themselves. So here we are driving into the campus. We just passed a drop-off area where school buses, tour buses can drop off people, they can gather. And then as they pull into the parking area, we'll be walking up to the Conservation Legacy Center. If we were to be driving straight ahead on this road, we would encounter the end of the Missoula International Airport runway. When we designed this building, we wanted a building design that would allow a real wow factor to attract people to the area. And so we designed this building so that it could be easily seen from the interstate as well as the airport runway. You can also see some of the future amenities that we'll be having on our campus. So this is, as I mentioned earlier, a 31-acre campus that provides a lot of outdoor amenities as well as the Conservation Legacy Center. So here we are in the Orientation Plaza. This is a gathering area for people as they enter the building. I'm not sure why it's going quite so slowly. Maybe I'll see if I can help it along.
It's probably bandwidth for over the Zoom.
Okay. So here we are entering the lobby of the Conservation Legacy Center. You can see some of the images that Dave and I shared in our PowerPoint presentation. So we walk through the center. You'll see these video plints that we showed in our PowerPoint. It starts with the beginnings. We wanted to be able to have people get kind of an education about the beginnings of conservation in the United States. How did it start? Why do we have it? Why is it unique? So by having key individuals from the history of early conservation is how we're going to prepare people to go into the exhibition gallery. Speed it up here. And then entering into the exhibition gallery, we will have a short introduction film, again, that talks about the history of the agency and the many, many partners that make conservation happen in the United States. Here you can see a glimpse of that north wall with that large digital canvas. These blue monitors that you see are collaborator stories, and these will be video monitors that will host interviews with partners, with individuals like yourselves that can talk about why this is important to them. Why is wilderness important to you? as well as the history that we're going to be sharing. So we have those sprinkled throughout. And again, those are motion activated. As you step up to them, they start playing. You see these plinths, these wooden structures that kind of identify the different zones, and you can see some artifact cases, which for the purposes of the video are empty, but we have a really wide range and way of ways to be able to share information. You know, artifacts tell the story. It's not going to be a complete digital museum. We're going to have a number of artifacts, and on this back wall where you see that kind of olive colored wall, those are all artifact cases. And we have a variety of different means through each of these areas. Again, digitally, static displays, graphics to tell the stories. And then as you exit the exhibition hall, we will have mirroring video plinths that will have contemporary individuals that will be relaying their stories of conservation. And really, one of the big pictures that we want to have as a takeaway is the fact that this is a big effort. There are a lot of partners that play into conservation. And we want to be able to have the public understand that there's no one agency that handles conservation. It is a variety of agencies. It's a variety of individuals and partners that have throughout history made conservation in the United States work. And it's also a balancing act, and it's a challenge, and not everyone agrees, and not every decision that's been made has been the right decision. As a museum that is independent of any individual agency, we tell the whole story. The good, the bad, everything. We want the public to have a great understanding of all of the challenges that go into managing public lands. As you leave the exhibition hall, you'll also, you saw a small gift shop, but we'll also have a classroom that can be a multi-purpose room. This is where we can host meetings, but also events. And we've designed the center to have a large outdoor grassy area where we can host a variety of outdoor lectures, events, learning experiences. And then on the exterior south-facing side of the building, you see more of these beautiful tree-like support columns supporting a mass timber roof. And I would also like to mention that our forest products partners have been very strong supporters of this project, and they have contributed right now all of the timber products necessary for the mass timber portions of the building have been contributed as a pro bono donation to the museum. We currently have our offices and our repository in Midtown Missoula. And so the mezzanine area of the Conservation Legacy Center will be the home to our new offices. We're in a temporary facility now. It won't last forever. And so we need to find a new location. And the timing is just perfect for the opening of the Conservation Legacy Center. So this just gives you a brief glimpse of what the staffing areas will look like. This is directly above the gift shop area and the classrooms and meeting space and public restrooms on the first floor. And then the visitors can also take the elevator up to the roof level, where we'll have a beautiful, beautiful observation deck and also a lookout experience. We currently have a really nice L4 lookout on our Forest Discovery Trail that's fully furnished. But being an authentic lookout, it is not ADA accessible. So this will be an oversized version of a lookout that can have a multi-purpose function. It can be a learning area, an exhibit area, but also a meeting space. And then as we kind of pan out, you can see the repository portion of the Conservation Legacy Center, which the video doesn't go into, but it's featured on the back side of this building. And I will stop sharing the screen, and we'd love to get your reactions, your thoughts. And again, we just really wanted to share our project so that you can see what we're doing and how it involves wilderness.
Well, very cool, Lisa and Dave. I'm just going to share one of my treasured artifacts. is a book by Bob Marshall called The People's Forest that is autographed by Bob.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he gave this to he gave this to a congressman as part of his promotion of the book, The People's Forest, where Bob Marshall laid out a philosophy and an idea for what the national forest should all be about. He was pretty forward-thinking man, and he talks a lot about what wilderness should be inside that book. Anyways, so lots of great things that you guys are working on. Thanks for coming and sharing. So we've got a small enough audience here that if you have an interest in just talking about or asking a question, just raise your hand. We'll recognize you, take you off mute, and you can just ask, and we'll get questions answered right in progress. If you want to just leave a question in the chat, that's okay too. Rupert, I can see that you're ready to go. So let's just start off with Rupert Cutler, distinguished Assistant Secretary of Agriculture at one point in time.
Hi, Randy. Hi, all. I just wonder, Lisa, if you're in touch with Wilderness Watch in the same city there. Is George Nickerson Company involved at all?
I'm going to let Dave answer that question. Dave's kind of spearheading our wilderness exhibit effort.
You know, Rupert, right at this time, no, but it's somebody that we should talk to. I agree. So we recognize that they probably don't have money for us, but they at least should know what we're up to. And when we make a promise that we'll make a contact there.
I'm impressed with the attention you're giving wilderness. And how about the Bob Marshall Foundation? How about those guys?
Well, we've been talking, we started a conversation with Bill Hodge.
Yeah.
Moving over to basically changing jobs. So we're connecting, he's to the Wilderness Society. He's moving over that for Montana rep for the Wilderness Society.
I'm very interested in that. You know, I used to be with the Southern Appalachian Wilderness Stewards in Asheville. And moved out your way and moving on again. Well,
yeah, I would say
I'm very impressed with the plan. My wife and I were there about 2 years ago and went to the visitor center and went the lookout. I was on a lookout on a little snowy top mountain in the Sullivan Lake district of the Conixu Forest in 1952.
That sounds good.
Yeah, but you have, it's very similar.
Come back in 2025 when we open the museum, and there's going to be a national reunion for Forest Service people.
Okay.
This summer was in Lake Tahoe. We're going to host it in 2025.
I will say
that was my claim to membership in the Forest Service retirees. I was lookout in 1952.
I will say that in preparation for this webinar, that Dave and Lisa have hosted a number of focus group sessions with past employees of the Forest Service who have been involved in wilderness management, many of the retired regional specialists, national program leaders. They've done a pretty extensive outreach of trying to bring ideas together from internal with the Forest Service, and we thought this would be a great opportunity to get some external ideas as well as they're continuing developing their plans. So do we have any other questions out there?
I would just mention too, Randy, to your point, we're just starting these outreach efforts now with these different sections and zones of the exhibit. This is kind of a new outreach. So if there are organizations we haven't talked to yet, it's just because we're just getting started with the exhibit outreach to share what we've developed so far. But a lot of work has gone into it. We started 2 years ago, and it's been a full-time job in working with a number of different constituency stakeholders and getting their feedback. And, you know, we want to make sure that we tell the story, that we tell it right. We don't want to do it in a vacuum.
The other thing too is that we have a small panel of professional historians that we're gonna bounce some of these ideas off to make sure that, and get their feedback.
Mhm.
Well, congratulations on what you've achieved so far. It's very handsome. I wish you well, and to the extent that I can help let people know about it, I'd like to do that. I'm very interested in the lesson plans, Lisa. I might be able to use the lesson plans here in Roanoke, and so I'll email you about that.
Actually, yeah, actually, you can actually just go to our website,
Okay,
and they're all available on the website.
Right. Any other questions from our audience? Just lift up a hand or come on board and start talking.
Randy, it's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good. I'm glad you could make it, Rupert. It was a special treat. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions, but Dave and Lisa, if you have any final comments before we close out the webinar.
I would just remind people that if anything comes to mind after this meeting, if you have questions or ideas or thoughts of someone that might be able to help us, feel free to email. Feel free to share our project with others. Let people know what we're doing. You know, we appreciate it. The more people we have involved, the better it will be. Better product we'll have.
You guys see the chat?
Yes, we
See.
can, Philip. Thank you for sharing that with us. We're
Oh, thank you.
working,
Yes.
you're saying that's the Wilderness Watch is working with National Geographic?
No, I'm sorry. Wilderness Watch is in Missoula, and I just wanted to tell you that we talk to them pretty regularly. I'm with North Cascades Conservation Council.
Okay.
Okay.
Out here in Seattle. So just recently, we've got a lot of complicated wilderness issues, both with the Forest Service and the National Park Service, by the way. We probably have been in a more contentious relationship with the Park Service lately about their wilderness management than we have with the Forest Service, interestingly enough. I don't know if you guys have any intention of dealing with the National Park Service wilderness management, but our impression is that generally people tend to give the Park Service a total pass on everything because they're just 100% perfect, but they're not. They're people like anybody else, and they have their own problems with wilderness. I mean, they're not fundamentally geared toward the idea of wilderness because
They never have been.
their original concept was to build roads everywhere for auto tourism. So, there's just a fundamental conflict there that continues to drive us crazy. Anyway,
Yeah.
Wilderness Watch is on top of both those issues and and they're national, of course. So
Yeah,
they can point you to a catalog of interesting, controversial topics. It's
a
not all
fascinating
hyper
study.
adversarial. I know everybody wants to feel good. They don't want to, touch on that too much adversarial stuff. But and there have been some recent wins too. So yeah, Wilderness Watches. If you need us to, I'd be happy to put you in touch with George, or you must know those guys. Anyway, and then National Geographic has been approaching us lately for some of our historical materials to put into their Atlas of Wild America. They're going to publish either later this year or first part of next year. And I didn't know if you were aware they were working on that project, but I've seen some galleys and it looks like it'd be right up your alley. So I can also refer you to who I'm working with there.
I think that would be great. I was not aware of that. I don't know, Dave, if you were.
No, if you could send us an email, that'd be great. So.
Okay, would I just find your address on the website, generic address?
It's,
Go ahead, Lisa.
I was going to say it's on the website under our people. You can click on Dave or myself, but it's also easy. It's our first and last name. So Dave would be dave.stack@forestservicemuseum.org, and mine would be lisa.tate@forestservicemuseum.org.
Oh, Forest Service Museum. I'm sorry, I was looking at wildernessalliance.org.
Oh, nope.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, so I would just want to thank you again, Dave and Lisa, for coming today and sharing about the National Museum of Forest Service history. I think it's going to be an excellent resource. Look forward to coming and seeing it the next time I'm in Missoula, Montana. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.